Today we are going to make a quick, easy, economic, year-long journal. 15 easy steps, basic tools, and a few hours is all you need to create a journal to enjoy year-round. Easy and economic enough that you can make a few to keep, share, or sell. Hello everyone, it's Madi Azar with Spectrum Art Creations for Graphic 45 Brand Ambassador Team. To make our journal, I will be using the stunning Graphic 45 Time to Flourish collection. Let's take a look. If you are not familiar with the Time to Flourish collection, it is a beautiful, massive collection. It features 24 pages. 12 are going to be your cut apart or your ephemera pages, which have all the little tags and the monthly calendar and pictures and all kinds of really fun postage stamps and journaling cards. And then it also has 12 coordinating pages to go with each of those months. In addition to that, it also includes the chipboard set and one of each of the two sticker sheets. So those 6x12 sheets, sticker sheets, you get 2 of those. So it is a deluxe collector's edition. So if you're not familiar with it, here is a quick walkthrough and preview of it. In step 1, we're going to pull out all 12 pages that have the ephemera. So there's one for each month. They have the journaling cards, the postage stamps, the little tags. We're going to pull those out first. In step 2, we are going to cut all those pages. So we're going to cut one for each month and then separate them into little piles. There's so much, as you can see here on my table, there's just so much ephemera and pieces that we're going to be able to work with. Plenty. Plus, don't forget, we also have the chipboard and the 2 sticker sheets. In step 3, we are going to grab our composition notebook. I happen to have a graphed ruled composition notebook, but you could grab a regular one. This one measures 9.75 by 7.5, which is typical, and it actually has 80 sheets. So what I've done is I've divided those 80 sheets by 12, and I've paper clipped 6 per month. In the end, that left a balance or a remainder of 8 sheets, which I've paper clipped together. That's going to be perfect for maybe cataloging plants in the garden, or maybe if you want to use it as a place to set goals or take notes for the upcoming year, things that you like to do in the future. In step 4, we're going to cut down our pages. We're going to do that by simply measuring out 5 inches, and then I'm going to use my ruler to tear my pages down to size. Now, of course, you could use your trimmer, you could use your scissors, you can use your ruler like I'm going to do, which gives you a really nice organic edge. I love that look. Now, if you have maybe a more deckled tear ruler, that would be awesome as well. You can also hand tear if you'd like, but I'm going to be using my ruler and simply tearing down to 5 inches. In step 5, we're going to work on the front cover. We're going to mark, score, and fold our front cover. We could use a ruler to measure this, but as you can see, I am simply eyeballing it by simply looking at where my pages end. I am putting a little mark on there. Then I'm going to bring in my T ruler and I'm going to use my scoring tool. I'm going to score it and then fold it. That's going to create a pocket for us later on in the front cover. By creating this fold, not only are we adding a pocket to our front cover, but we are also going to help to strengthen that cover. That, plus of course adding our gorgeous graphic 45 papers, is really going to give us a very strong front and back cover. Now, when you're doing your creasing, if your paper crumbles or cracks a little bit, your front cover, do not worry, because remember, we are going to be covering that up later. In step 6, we are going to be working on the back cover. It's going to be slightly different for a couple of reasons. First, we need that back cover to wrap around and come to the front. And we also need to leave enough space for either a pen or maybe tabs or both. And we will need to break down the back cover to create a rounded shape, which will allow for the pen and the tabs. And of course, by making it rounded, it's going to give it a more aesthetically pleasing look. To do this, I am going to just temporarily place a marker, like a permanent marker, which is wide enough to give me enough room for those tabs or that pen. Then I'm going to use the T ruler again, and I'm going to score just like we did in the front cover. And then I'm going to work that back cover, the fibers in that paper, to create a rounded look. In step 7, we are going to be making our monthly covers. So the covers for each month in our journal. We're going to gather the 12 remaining monthly coordinating pages, and we're going to cut them in half. So they will now measure 6 inches wide by 12 inches tall. And we're only going to be working with 1/2 of those. So here I'm just kind of sorting them out into 2 stacks because we're only going to need 1 of those sets. In step 8, we're going to take those same covers and now we're going to cut the height to 9 5/8 in my case. The journal said it was 9.75, but I found mine to be a little truer to size at 9 5/8. Yours might vary, so just measure the height of your pages. Now, our covers were 6 inches wide, and this is intentional. Remember, even though our journal pages were 5 inches wide, we have an extra inch. And this again is intentional because we're going to be scoring it at 1 inch from the right hand side. This score is going to give us the ability to glue the monthly dividers and have the page reinforced for our tabs. Nothing worse than working hard on your projects and then because you have thinner paper, it starts to tear later on. So we are going to reinforce that. Plus there's going to be a bonus because we're going to also create a side tuck, but we'll cover that later. So for now, all we're going to do is cut the height down, and we are going to also be scoring them and burnishing them down, okay, and setting them aside for later. Also, you will have some extra pieces, obviously, from when you cut the height. You're going to want to save those for later as well. In step 9, we are going to work on our decorative covers. Now we have a couple of choices here. We can select from our 6 by 12 remaining pieces in order to create our covers. The only thing with this is when you fold over, you're going to be a little short, and that's perfectly fine because all you'll need to do is use 2 pieces to create a great collage look. Or the other choice is to use a second set. I usually purchase 2 sets of each of the paper pads. Well, I shouldn't say that. Sometimes I purchase a lot more if it's something that I really know I'm going to love and use and want to have later on in the future, or if it's Alice, because everybody knows I'm Alice crazy. But typically, I always have 2 sets. And the reason for this, of course, is in case I make a mistake, which I do sometimes. We all do. When we cut, we might cut too short or too small, and it's always nice to have that backup extra set. But also for situations just like this, where I'm going to prefer to use 1 full sheet rather than have to collage it. Both looks would look amazing. So if you only have 1 set, do not be discouraged. Just go ahead and select the colors that you prefer to use. But I am going to use only 3 full sheets from my other collection. One's going to be for the outside front cover. The other one's going to be for the back cover, also on the outside. And then I'll need 1 more for the back inside cover. For the front inside cover, we are not going to need a full sheet. So again, you will only need 3 full sheets if you want to just wrap it around and not have to obviously collage your pages. And as you can see here, our 6 by 12 remaining pieces will be more than sufficient to cover that inside front cover. With our papers now selected, it is time for step 10, and that is going to be cutting down our covers. Now, here again, we have a couple of choices. You can either cut to fit and trim off any cover that might show after, or you can actually add 1/8 of an inch to the width of the cover. Again, when we get ready to fold the paper, even though the paper will stretch and it's very forgiving and it has fibers, so it'll work with us, you are still going to have that little bit of a shortage when you do your covers to fit because the paper needs to bend, right? So just keep that in mind. I choose the easier way, which is I cut to fit, meaning I simply trace my covers, and then if anything is showing, I will trim it off. And also don't forget, we will have the ability to distress as well. So if anything is just slightly off, it is not the end of the world. We'll be able to distress using our gorgeous Graphic 45 hybrid inks, and we will be able to cover a world of sins. So if you notice, all that I have done is I have used my clips so that I can actually trace the papers without them moving. and then I'm going to be cutting those to size. So on this front cover, I kind of did it a little bit the hard way, which is I chose to cut from the right hand side of the page. I just wanted to keep that rose and that beautiful stamp there in the middle. So I chose the right hand side of the page, which now means that I need to trim off any remainder from the left hand side. So once again, I'm just going to use my clips to hold it in place, and then I'll mark and be able to cut the excess from the left hand side. And like any good crafter, I am going to measure twice, cut once. So here I'm just making sure that my measurements and my markings are correct before I cut my front cover. Next, let's work on our back cover. Same idea, same concept. We're going to pick whatever pages we've selected. In this case, you can see I'm going to work it a lot easier because I am going to be butting it up on the right hand side. So all I need to do is going to be to clip and then cut. But I love, love, love this quote. So I wanted to make sure that I did incorporate that into the journal somewhere. So once again, we're going to use our clips to hold it in place, making sure that we are nice and level and centered. And then we're going to trace it around with our pencil and cut it, fully knowing that if we want to give it an extra 1/8 of an inch in our width to allow for that bend in the paper when we get ready to bend our paper, that's great. If not, and we want to cut it to size like I'm going to do, that's perfectly fine, okay? Because we can go ahead and trim any cover that is visible. And now let's work on the inside back cover. Same concept, once again, super simple. All we're going to do is going to be to clip our page that we want to use. Then we're going to trace around with our pencil and cut that down to the perfect size fit. Now, since I've chosen to use a full 12 by 12 sheet in order to make the inside back cover, I can use the remaining piece to do and to cover the front inside cover. So that worked out really perfect with one 12 by 12 sheet. With that said and done, it is now time to adhere our covers. So that is what we're going to be doing next. I tend to glue a little bit at a time, and then I use my bone folder to stretch out my paper. I'm also going to be using my 3-in-1 adhesive because I find that this gives me a little bit more playtime and it allows me to move the paper if I need to. So it gives me a little bit of flexibility and playtime. And as you can see, I will continue to work the paper, adding adhesive a little bit at a time, and then using my bone folder as well as tugging on it to break the fibers and make that paper stretch and be more pliable. Now, of course, we are still going to have that little bit of an 1/8 of an inch that I told you that earlier that I shared that you'll end up with being short on the paper. Again, if you would prefer to add the extra length or the extra width, excuse me, from the beginning, you can avoid that. But if not, of course, we can trim it, which is what I'm going to do. I just find it much easier to trace to fit, just super easy for me to cut. Or you can also add a decorative edge onto it, be it maybe some lace or some seam binding or even some additional paper from the paper scraps that we have. Or do not forget that the 12 by 12 paper also comes with these amazing, really awesome borders, or you can use them as belly bands. So you can always use those as well to help you cover that deficiency or that short piece on that paper. We will continue to use the exact same process for all of the covers, for the fronts as well as the insides. Now keep in mind, as we work the inside back cover, it is important to remember that we're going to once again work on that paper by bending it and creating that rounded effect that we want to have on that flap that comes over the front. And of course, finally, we will adhere our inside front piece. This one is pretty straightforward. It is just gluing down the panel, and it does not need to reach all the way to the fold, because remember, we are going to be closing that front flap to create a side tuck pocket. For step 11, we are going to be inking or distressing our edges. I'm going to be using the gorgeous Graphic 45 Classic Black Hybrid ink pad. Super yummy, super luscious, and like I mentioned, it will hide a world of sins. So if you have any edges that perhaps are a little bit skewed, or you would like to have a little bit more coverage to hide any flaws, this is a great way to do so. Plus, it totally finishes the project. I just think it gives it that really clean finish look. Another option, of course, is going to be to round off your edges, which in this case I have decided to do so. So I've used my corner chomper and I have rounded off the edges of the notebook just to give it, again, that more finished look. Step 12, we're going to be creating our front inside side tuck pocket, and that is super simple. All we're going to do is adhere the top and the bottom of our flap, and of course I'm going to use my clips just to hold it in place so that I make sure I have some good adhesion. And is it simple as that? By doing that, we're going to have a very generous pocket, which is going to allow us to tuck in photos and memorabilia and receipts, notes, maybe some seed packets if you're using it for a gardening journal. So super simple, but very effective. Step 13, we're going to start working on our monthly dividers. First, we're going to start by distressing our edges. Now, we only need to distress the front side of our papers, so no need to worry about the back side. But we'll start by distressing, and then we are going to be adhering them down. With our dividers all distressed, now it is time to adhere them down. Very simply, we are going to be adhering the full side all the way down, and the flap, the 1-inch flap that is on the back, we are going to be only adhering that on the top and the bottom, once again creating a side tuck. So now this is not only acting as a divider for each of our months, but it's also a page reinforcer to allow us to be able to insert or to adhere our monthly tabs without causing any stress to the paper or possible future tearing. And it's also giving us a little side tuck. So it is a win-win-win situation. We will skip over to our next paper clip or our next month, and we are going to continue to do the exact same thing for all 12 months. Now in the end, we had extra papers left, extra pages, and we said that those were going to be left for maybe a glossary or recipes, ideas, future plans for next year, maybe just random notes that we come across, plans. So we are going to grab one of our remaining half pages, and in this case, in order to differentiate it, I am using the back of those papers. It is a January one, which is really neat because it has words like next year and that kind of thing. So it reminds me once again that these are going to be notes for the next year to come. We're going to follow the exact same process, cutting it, scoring it, folding it, and adhering it. With our last and final divider done, it is time for step 14. We're going to be inserting monthly tabs. I am going to be using my mini whale tail tabs. Simply adorable. We're going to need 12 of those. I'm going to leave the last section divider for next year completely blank, so I don't need to do anything for that. Now for my dividers, for my tabs, I am going to be doing a tab every 3/4 of an inch. Of course, depending on what you are going to be using, you might need a different measurement. But if you want to split it the way that I did, which is every 3/4 of an inch, your measurements will be 3/4 or 0.75, then 1.5, 2.25, 3, 3 3/4, 4.5, 5.25, 6, 6 3/4, 7.5, 8.25, and 9. Now, of course, this is dependent on the fact that you're using a standard composition notebook or one with measurements similar to mine, but if not, simply grab the height of your journal, divide it by 12, and you'll be able to ascertain more or less the distance between your tabs. With our mini whale tail tabs all die cut, we're going to bring out our calendar stamp set from Graphic 45. Love the set. It's got the full months, it's got the days of the week, it's got the abbreviated larger months as well as the numbers. Now, we are not going to be able to use the abbreviated ones because these are mini tabs, so they are smaller. So what I've decided to do is to improvise a little bit. I'm going to use the smaller font, which is the one at the top, but of course I can't fit the full month, so I am going to still be using it in the abbreviated format. Now I also considered using the numbers because we could have done 1 through 12, one for each month. But in the end, I decided to go with the actual month abbreviations themselves. Now, in order to use the smaller font, I would have to obviously improvise, and it's super easy to do that. We are going to be creating our very own abbreviated months by simply using masking tape to mask off the remaining letters that we are not going to be using when we stamp. After testing the concept on a larger tab that also comes with our whale tail tab set, I found that it works perfect. So I was able to stamp out all 12 months, and they look so stinking adorable. Absolutely love the idea. And again, this stamp set is so versatile, so I can see it being used for journal upon journal in years to come. And now we are going to glue down those cutie patooties. I absolutely love our little tabs. They look amazing and they're super sturdy and strong, being backed up by our dividers. So I hope you guys love the look as well. In step 15, we are ready to decorate. We are going to be using all of those beautiful ephemera bits that we had cut out earlier. Plus, don't forget, we also have 2 full sticker sheets still available. And we have the remainder of the pages, the bottom of the pages that we had pre-cut, which I have put and set aside using a clip so that I could make little pockets or tucks or even tags out of them. So we also have all those pieces to coordinate with each of our months. Now, for me, I want my journal to have plenty of journaling space. So I want to be able to write in it. So I am going to try to create some pockets and some tucks, but still keeping enough of the pages that I am able to journal throughout the year. The possibilities are endless. Starting with our divider page, we have a built-in tuck spot, whether it's for our pre-cut ephemera or maybe things that we'll be collecting throughout the year, receipts, photos, notes, memos. We have our leftover little pieces that we can use to make pockets on the bottom, or maybe even tuck spots at the top. Of course, we also have our cute borders, and we can use that either at the top, horizontally or vertically. We could also use it on the side and make it into another little tuck spot there on the side, or just as a decorative border. We could also use it as a belly band. So there are lots of different options that you'll be able to do, and you can either choose to decorate all of the months now or decorate each month as you go along. I am going to be using this journaling card here in the front to make a pocket. I see my cute little bird there at the bottom, so I don't want to cover him up. So I'm going to bring that journaling card just a bit, but I'm going to glue it on my 3 sides, creating a nice large pocket in that front divider flap. Now I am going to decorate the month of January, so you guys can see. Again, my goal is to leave as much journaling writing spots as I possibly can while still making it look absolutely adorable. We also need to talk closures, because if you'd like to add a closure to your journal, you have a few choices. You can use a plain elastic closure, such as I have done here. You can also choose to use a permanent tuck elastic closure, as I have done on this prototype. I've also added a pencil holder onto the prototype, but you can see that, there's a lot of different possibilities. But here in our journal, we have, of course, our front cover, inside large tuck spot. On the page divider, I have used that large January journaling card, and I have created a large tuck pocket, again perfect for notes, seed packets, or whatever I'd like to tuck. Now the back of that, of course, we had created an instant tuck spot, and we have plenty of journaling on both of these pages, some little decorations here and there. Next we have a lot of journaling and a large pocket. That journaling card at the bottom can also be used for writing. Here we have more writing, and we've used the band to create a top tuck. Plenty of journaling here. The quote is also a side tuck pocket, and plenty of journaling on this next page. On the next one, we have more journaling spots, and here the January, we have created a flip. We can write on this page, add a photo on the back of that if need be, or if we want to. And on the next side, we are going to have numbers, which is awesome because we can create maybe like a to-do list or a top favorite things for that month. So it's a great way to create that little flip. Lots of writing there as well as here. And here we've used our scrap piece of paper to create a pocket using our circle punch to notch out a semicircle. Now we have a large pocket there and a little one on the bottom. I've used the remainder of the border that we had used here at the top for that tuck. The remainder of that has been used on the bottom to create a double layer pocket as well. On this next page, We have created some decorations in a very nice large pocket with journaling opportunities as well. And that completes the month of January. Of course, now we have the rest of the months to decorate, but this will give you some ideas as to how I've done it. Of course, paper will settle in eventually. The more you use your journal, the more pliable those covers will become. But here in 15 quick steps and one afternoon or just a few hours, we have completed a yearly journal. We hope that you guys have enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining us today in the studio. If you liked the video, won't you please give it a thumbs up and leave us a comment down below? We love to hear back from you, and we hope to be making more videos for you here in the future. Thank you to Graphic 45 for the lovely collection and inspiration, and we will see you all soon. Bye.